Okay. We've got a couple people joining us already for the artist information session for the public art bench program. We're going to wait for about 2 or 5 more minutes just for some additional guests to arrive, and then we'll get started. While we're waiting this extra 5 minutes, it'd be really interesting to know where people learned about this opportunity, about this artist information session. So for those of you who are familiar with the with this program, if you can comment, maybe add in the comment section where you heard about this artist information session. It'd be really helpful for us to know. Oh, that's great. Faithia, you've got a lot of friends. Vera, it's wonderful to know that you also have a lot of friends.
Yep.
Husband, perfect. Okay, we've got about 2 more minutes and then we'll get started. Okay, great. We're going to get started. So hello and welcome to our artist information session. My name is Teresa Bowler and I'm a coordinator with culture and social development in the community services branch of the regional municipality of Wood Buffalo. And it's my pleasure to be your host this evening for this artist information session. But first, of course, I would like to acknowledge that we are here on Treaty 8 territory, the traditional lands of the Cree, Dene, and Métis people. This is also the traditional meeting grounds of many Indigenous people since time immemorial. So as we sit here together in this virtual space, I think we should also recognize that our feet are planted on this land, and we continue to build relationships and respect our relationships with each other and with the environment, with our waters, and as we move forward. So before I begin the presentation, I do have an agenda here for you. So we will be going over some housekeeping items. I'll do a quick project overview, the reason why you're here, and then we'll have the pleasure of listening to our featured artists this evening, Karen Fatt and Jamie Mason, who is one of the artist duo of rmwb. And then I'll go over some critical information that has been shared in the artist call. And then we'll open it up for question and answer period. Okay. So here we are. So our time can be as informative and collaborative as possible. Here's what you need to know. This event is being recorded as an act of transparency and as a form of record keeping. It will be made available to the public once the meeting has concluded. If you know of someone who can't join us tonight, let them know that it is a recording and it is recorded, and it'll be available on participate.rmwb.ca. And that'll be found on the Artist Info Session project page. You'll also notice that your audio devices will be muted for the portion of this evening. And of course, this is intentional so that our speaker can share information uninterrupted. If you have any questions throughout the evening, I would encourage you to write them down or enter them into the Q&A chat as part of the session, or you can always reach out to us after. You'll also, once presentations are complete, we will turn your camera on. Well, we hope that you would like to turn your camera on as well. And of course, the mics will also be available for discussion. I'd also like to inform you that disrespectful behavior will not be tolerated and will result in the removal of that individual. And while we always prepare for these evenings and these virtual situations, I can't guarantee that that we might not run into technical difficulties. So I do ask for your patience if we do. So it's a very exciting evening. But before I bring on our guest artists, I'd like to do a quick overview as to why you're here. So the Public Art Bench Program. This is a pilot project put forward by Public Art Wood Buffalo. It's aimed at strengthening the visual connection between our rural communities and the core of Fort McMurray. What we're looking for is creatives, and can be anybody. We're looking for people who are specialized in illustration, who specialize in sculpture, who might specialize in woodworking. The sky's the limit with this. You can apply as an individual, or you can apply as a collaborative. We're really open to what you might, really open to what's going to come out of sort of your expression of interest. What we're looking for is that artist or artist team to design 2 sister benches or salient benches, and these benches will be inspired through community collaboration with engagement with the community of Anzac or with the community of Sapre Creek Estates. One bench will stay in that rural community, and then the sister bench will be placed in Fort McMurray in the Kiam Community Park. So with that, it is my pleasure to introduce our feature artist this evening, Karen Fatt.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Thanks for inviting me here. And I'll just say the acknowledgement for Jamie and myself for the Treaty 7 region of Southern Alberta. In the spirit of reconciliation, we acknowledge that we live, work, all their homes in the Treaty 7 region of southern Alberta. Okay, I'm going to get started on the first slide. This one is Untitled Blooms. It was created in about 1996 for the city of St. Albert. They had a call out for public art benches. This is actually bench number 2 I've ever done. The city of St. Albert is, their slogan is the Botanical City. So from that, I got the idea of making a pot of flowers for a bench. And this one is made out of concrete and steel. The rear portion is steel, and I painted that portion of it. And it's located on one of the sidewalks in front of City Hall. And as far as I know, it's still there. Next. Okay, this is called Snail on a Leaf and created early 2000. It's metal and paint with ceramic tile on the concrete portion of the bench. It's located in the City of St. Albert Celebration Garden Park. And it is one of 2 commissions I received at the time. Behind the snail, you can see another sculpture that's a fountain. So that commission as well as the snail bench were done at the same time. And next slide. This one's located in Calgary, and it was created for the 4th Street Business Revitalization Zone. Usually they had a call out every year, and the goal of this one is it was to basically a Chippendale style sofa in a contemporary manufacturing method, right? So I used steel on this, and I can't remember the type of plate it is made from, but you can see it's highly textured. And the cushions I made out of foam. There's an underlying metal structure for the inner core. Next slide. Okay, these were created in 2009 for the city of Calgary, and it's located in their Village Square Leisure Center. They're about 7 foot long and 5 feet high, and they're made of steel, and there's tile on top, and it's all painted, as you can see. So the goal was to represent the diverse cultural community who use a leisure center there, and to celebrate the leisure center's role in the community, which is to bring art, sport, culture, and learning together. The patterns suggest dynamic movement and activity. Stylized human figures and wheels in action suggest sport and recreation. There's the yin and yang symbols, symbolizing balance in life, and as well it makes reference to Asian culture. Gecko symbols and flowers represent nature and the outdoors. The Leisure Center incorporates nature activities in the program, so that's why I used those references. There are also other hidden symbols, which are recognizable upon closer inspection, such as the chakra wheel, which is found on the Indian flag, and a symbol of the East Asian community, which is very prevalent in the northeast section of Calgary. Okay, next. Okay, this one was created for Red Deer, and it sits in front of the Red Deer Art Museum. It's made of steel. It's painted. It's about 15 feet long and 8 feet high. Um, the gallery wanted a functional interactive piece for the front of the building. I chose an agrarian theme for this project because we're in wheat country too. And so a row of brightly painted colored elevators are situated along a railroad track. And they're supposed to be in various stages of decay. Some are fully clad, others are sort of skeletal in appearance and coffin-like. The broken shapes allude to the disappearance of these prairie icons. The seating is made of no maintenance PVC. And coincidentally, there was a railroad track running through the site where the gallery now sits. I didn't know that at the time of my research, but they told me that after. So it was a nice coincidence. Next slide. This one's located in Toronto and was created for the Liberty Village Business Improvement Area Art Benches program. It reflects the playful, dynamic character of the neighborhood, and the design references the history of the railroad in the area. The different types of wheels used and color reflects its history, the past, present, and future of the village. The title on a roll makes a reference to the modern and forward-thinking character of the Liberty Village neighborhood. It's about 6 feet long, steel powder coated. Next slide. These were created in about 2017 for the city of Calgary. They're located at the Rundle Transit Station in the community of Rundle, the Northeast Calgary, where there are many different ethnic groups. So I use the sofa as a metaphor for community because the first thing you do when you welcome someone into your home, you gather on the sofa. So I use different styles, traditional, transition, and modern styles. And that reflects the oldest community members, the second generation, and the younger generations. And the benches reflect the ethnic diversity of the community. I've used folk textile motifs and traditional colors that you would find in their fabrics, the very bright oranges, reds, and purples. And, again, that references color and activity and, an exciting neighborhood to be a part of. And it's entitled Conversations. And they're all about 8 feet long and they fit about 4 people each. And I've shown some process photos in the background there to show you, they're made of steel. Next slide. Okay, this one I did recently for the Marda area in Calgary. It's called Learn Together, Recover Together, Resilient Together. And it was sponsored by the Sharp Foundation and Habitus Collective. And this one's about 66 inches in diameter. So it's a commemorative piece to remember our community's response to the COVID-19 pandemic. It's a coming together to share stories of wellness, recovery, and resilience. The arrangement of forms represents diplomacy, equality, and democracy. The circle is representative of that, and the arrangement of seating represents the community cohesiveness and togetherness. The hardness and weightiness of the concrete table alludes to ideas of strength and resilience. So again, the different colors represent different themes that I tried to capture in the piece. And yeah, the precast, this one was a modest budget, so I chose a precast concrete table to put the tiles, the printed tiles on top of, so that I could be in budget for this particular piece. And I think that's it for my presentation. So back to you, Teresa.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Karen. I can already think of a lot of questions that I'm going to have to ask you about the process and those technical components that you experienced while building these beautiful pieces. So, and I hope all of you have thought of some great questions for Karen too. You'll be able to address those later this evening, and you can also include those questions in the chat box. Karen, we're so lucky to have you here today, so get those questions in.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Karen, and thank you for the beautiful land acknowledgement as well. Jamie, welcome. So we'll turn the spotlight to Jamie. Jamie is one half of the artist duo known as Rory and Polly.
Okay, awesome.
A little bit more. Well, Karen was focusing more on the technical. Jamie's going to talk a little bit more about the community engagement piece.
I'm just going to open my share tray here and get that going. Hopefully, is that working? Can you see it?
Yes, we can.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was realizing as Karen was going through hers that I should have included some more pictures kind of on the background of who I am and my art collective. But I mostly have pictures that deal with the project that we worked on, the bench project for Chinatown. But I am going to give a little bit of a background on Rory and Polly. Sorry, just one second. I'm realizing if I share tray here, I can't see the notes that I made.
Okay.
I'm going to be.
Yeah. I'll jump in here while you find those notes. If you're interested in learning more about the artists that we have here this evening, there's also their biography is also listed on our website at rmwb.ca. I believe it's /CallForCreatives. And I'll put it in the chat box. How's that, Jamie? Enough time?
No, I need my. Sorry.
Okay.
I've definitely lost my notes here.
Jamie, would you like me to share for you?
Sorry, just one second. Really apologize.
Okay, this is why we ask for patience and gracefulness as we experience technical difficulties.
Okay, I have my notes. Sorry about that. And we'll just share the project there. Okay, so everyone can see the presentation now?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm just going to talk about my art collective, and then I'm going to talk about public engagement, types of public engagement that you can do, and what we did personally when we were working with our bench project. So I'm one half of Rory and Polly. I'm actually Rory. My partner and husband, Kevin Chow, is Polly. And we've been running an art collective since 2015. Normally, we travel across Canada and the US selling art, and we just paint canvases and make prints and go to the public at Comic-Cons and artist alleys. to sell our pieces. But more recently, in the last 3 years, we've been doing more public artworks, including a few bench projects. And so when I'm going to talk about some of our public engagement activities, I want to reference, I have a degree in English and a degree in education and a minor in history. And Kevin has a degree in business and a diploma in marketing. So some of our public engagement pieces are very influenced by our backgrounds and our degrees and our history. And I used to work as well as the program coordinator for Regina Downtown Business Improvement District when I lived in Regina. So we do public engagement with art through there as well. So I'm a little familiar with some of the activities. But one of the big things would be consideration of location. So when you're looking at where you're putting your bench and the artwork that you want to create for your bench, definitely delve into local stories and histories. Our art pieces are all influenced by local stories and histories. Look at how that location fits in historically to the area. Find any oral story archives that you can. As well as important community moments, icons, or other considerations that the locals in the area might know. And one of the ways that you can do that or get that information is through approaching established community groups. So if you're looking at a certain community, they might have a business improvement area or a business improvement district. I know that Karen was talking a lot about doing projects for business improvement areas or BRZs. They'll have some connections in the area and some information about that particular location, as well as community community associations, rec centers, coordinators, volunteer groups, libraries, any kind of knowledge keepers you can engage with in the area is a way that you can get some knowledge about where you're putting the art and find a way to connect with people. Because the public can mean, just a resident in the area, or a public can mean a business owner or a, head of a community association. So those kind of community engagements can definitely happen in multifaceted ways. I know at my old work, we used to hold info sessions, online or in person, where you just hold like a coffee and you chat with people in the area and get some stories from them or ideas about, what they would want to see in the art or what they want to see represented in the area. Using social media is also a really important one. And when you're using social media, I know sometimes your own personal social media might not have as much reach. So that's why you make some connections with the local community groups or with the association so that they can boost your message when you're looking for input. Sorry, my throat's very dry. Also, visiting the area and meeting with local stakeholders is really important, I find. And that's a big part in how we ended up working on our bench project. So I'll give a little bit of a background on the bench project that we did in Chinatown and kind of how our engagement worked on that one. So we moved here in 2019 to Calgary from Regina, Saskatchewan, but we've been to Calgary many, many, many times. A lot of Kevin's family lives here. One of our biggest shows of the year is here, so we've spent a great deal of time in Calgary. Moving here was super exciting because there's a Chinatown in Calgary, and we were really, really excited because we're both huge foodies and love Chinatown. So as soon as we moved somewhere with an actual Chinatown district, we were really excited to get engaged, go visit Chinatown, see what there was. But we're also excited as artists. My husband and partner is Chinese Canadian, so he was really, really excited to have an area to explore his kind of cultural history and understand more of his family upbringing. So when we visited Chinatown, we had an idea where we wanted to really make some art for Chinatown, but we weren't sure how. So we went to the Calgary Chinese Cultural Center. And the Calgary Chinese Cultural Center is this huge building in Chinatown it's really gorgeous. It's an exact replica of another building in China with a very similar layout. And we ended up meeting the president of the Cultural Center. And we didn't know at the time that he was the president. So we just walked up and we're like, hey, we're young artists, really excited to like make some stuff. Like, who should we talk to? What do we do? We really want to, try anything we can. And he was like, well, let me introduce you to some people. Come to this meeting on this other day and I'll introduce you to a bunch of people. And we ended up meeting all of the stakeholders in Chinatown that were in this big group together, and they would all hang out and chat and knew each other. So we got introduced to everyone, and we ended up making a really fantastic connection with the community in that way. And through that, we started seeing more call for art in Chinatown, but we also started engaging with them and asking them, is there something that we can make for you? We can try to get a grant or do this or that. And they were all very excited because they had not been applying for grants or know how to apply for grants or anything like that. So we've managed to actually secure a few grants for Chinatown now, which has been fantastic. But that is part of how engagement can happen. So when you're looking for engagement and community and you're going there with the idea of finding people to connect with and creating art in that space, really do try and reach out to anybody you can, and they will eventually connect you to the people that you should be talking to. But definitely for getting the just like, if you want to target more of just like the residents or people who are walking around the area or visiting the area, you can do things like coffee socials or like town hall kind of style stuff where you get a room and providing free food or coffee is great for attracting people. And then just asking for that feedback and trying to get feedback on those kind of things. So the Chinatown Public Art Bench project, I had to preface with that because the head of the executive director of the Chinatown BIA actually approached us to do the art for the benches. So there wasn't a call for art for this one. He just asked us to do the art because he knew we were already in the area looking for art to do. So as you can see, this is one of the benches, and these are actually several volunteers from the Calgary Elderly Seniors Association in Calgary's Chinatown. So we actually had a lot of volunteer engagement with this project that was working with the Elderly Association and the BIA at the same time. So I'm going to kind of skip through some of these a little bit quicker. The bench construction, there was actually quite a tight budget. So we ended up working, we were helping the contractor who was building the benches. And the benches were a free design that you could find online called the Leopold bench. And then the contractor added on armrests onto the design, because that was one of the things that they specified that they wanted. So here is all 8 of the designs. So for the design work, when we were working on it, we did a number of sketches and we presented them to the stakeholders, which we all have kind of a group chat now. But we were presenting them to the stakeholders and showing them the different kind of designs. And we talked a lot with the president of the Calgary Chinese Cultural Center, asking him for, themes, ideas, things that are, relevant to Chinatown. And we also had our own background knowledge of things that we could use. So that's how these 8 bench designs ended up coming to be, was just working with the stakeholders in the community. and getting that feedback back and forth on what they'd like to see. The arowana, which is the fish, and the crane, especially, we worked with the Elderly Association for those two because two of the benches were going in front of the Elderly Association, and we didn't want them to be, we wanted them to be something that the elders at the Elderly Association would appreciate more. So we figured that those two, which are very meaningful in Chinese culture, the arowana and the cranes. Cranes mean like long life, longevity, and then we put some really cute like how to fold a paper crane on the back because we just like to do fun, silly things. And then the arowana is about like enrichment and long life and things like that. And then we put the Chinese ingots. But actually the ingots here are not exactly what we put on the back of the bench because we got the president from the Calgary Chinese Cultural Center to put the Chinese characters onto the ingots that were the ones that were supposed to go there. So these are some of the volunteers building the benches. I think that the volunteer component of this project was really important because a lot of community engagement with public art projects is about like fostering and building that community like engagement and stewardship and feeling of giving back to the community and like you're doing something in the community as a resident. So the seniors were super happy to be working with this project and helping out, and all the volunteers. We had a lot of volunteers actually. I think we had like 12 on average helping us to paint, which was really interesting to coordinate. But we did, the way we set up the whole project was with the intention of them helping. So we actually stenciled all the designs onto the wood and made it so that they could do kind of almost a paint by number. And then afterwards, we fixed up any line work that needed to be fixed and put all the black on so that we could still get the final image that we wanted out of the design. And they were very, very excited to paint. They wanted to paint so fast. They would actually like paint as quick as they could and then like put their hand up for more wood and like speed race us. We had to slow them down by the second day. I was like, you guys need to take more time. I can't run fast enough. This is our signature on the bench. So we also had a calligrapher come in and he did calligraphy of the Chinatown logo for the BIA on one side of the bench. And these benches were made out of pressure treated wood and bare outdoor latex acrylic. So like a very, like even he here is calligraphying with the outdoor paint, which was a little tough for him. And then this is Kevin putting on the squares on the outside. And then after we did all the painting, we coated it with a Varathane coating, which weatherproofed it and UV coated it. And then the seniors actually came and built the benches. So this is them building the benches. And it was really nice outside, so we ended up building the benches outside at one point. It was a really, really fun project. And afterwards, a lot of the comments from the seniors was just how much they appreciated being involved and seeing these benches out in Chinatown afterwards. It was very exciting. At the end, we put on a anti-graffiti coating, just so if they got tagged or anything, then you can get it off using like a orange chemical, or not orange chemical, like the orange cleaner wipe, something that's not as chemically. And then the city of Calgary actually installed the benches for us, which was fantastic. So this is all the benches completed, and you can see the armrest that we built on there. And then here is each of the resulting benches and their home locations. And with this one in particular, the Let's All Go to Chinatown, we really wanted to, well, it's kind of a play on Let's All Go to the Lobby, which is that like middle of a movie thing that used to play so you could go and get snacks. But instead it's Let's All Go to Chinatown. And we wanted to represent both some of the popular items you might see in Chinatown, but also some things you would not, but did represent Chinatown, like chicken feet might not be the first thing you think of, but it's definitely a food that we eat in Chinatown all the time. Or like shumai. We also have like dumpling, 2 different kinds of dumplings. But yeah, so that's all the designs for the benches, and here's all our collaborators. Yeah, that was how that project went, and kind of the influence that we got from the public engagement and how we used that in the project. And I think that's all for me.
That's amazing, Jamie. Thank you so much for that thorough presentation. It really does touch on some of the goals of the project that we're looking to do here, really collaborate with community, engage, and build something beautiful together, which is exactly what you've done. Also, you had a little bit of divine intervention there by randomly meeting the president, so, or CAO or executive director. Yeah, so lucky. Yeah. Anyways, if you have questions for these artists, I'd just like to remind everybody that you can enter your questions in the chat function, or you can even text them to 780-788-0206, and we'll get that number placed in our chat section as well. So with that, I'm just going to transition to the final component of our presentation before we get to the question and answer period. Now, please let me know if you can see my screen. All I need is like a nod or no. Perfect, thank you, thumbs up is great. Okay. And I'm doing the same thing, trying to pull up my notes here. Go. There it is. Okay, great. So we're going to go over a little bit of critical information for you when you're applying to this project. And again, the information is already available just by visiting rmwb.ca/CallForCreatives. So for this project, there are 3 specific sites that we're looking at for the community park bench project. Specifically point 1 and 2. So Vista Ridge Park is where one bench will be, and that's the community that you'll be working with is actually Sapri Creek Estates. And then the community that you'll be working with is, or the second community is Anzac, and the bench will be going in the community garden and park area. Then those sister benches will be placed into the Kiem Community Park. So the budget is $20,000, so per artist or per community is another way you could look at it. And how that breaks down is you'll look at about $10,000 budget per bench that you'll be creating. This budget would be inclusive of community engagement with our sister communities here, design, concept creation, fabrication or manufacturing, delivery and installation of the bench, any subcontractor, professional fees, and artist fees. You are required to have insurance, general liability insurance of up to $2 million. And then we will require maintenance, a detailed maintenance package. And the hope is that the desired lifespan of the bench is approximately 15 years. As I already went through, we will continue on. The anticipated schedule. So we are first going to start with expressions of interest, which are due by Thursday, November the 18th. So you do have a little bit of time to really think about that expression of interest. And then following that, November the 26th, we'll send out a notice of award, and we will notify all artists who apply to this project. And then we'll go into community engagement. So that'll happen over the winter, and then fabrication as well, and then summer installation, and then of course the celebration. So how do you submit, and what should you submit, and what should you think of when you're submitting? So we do have a pretty simplistic opportunity for you. We really are basing 50 points. The selection panel will be basing 50 points on your expression of interest, followed by 10 points for biography, 30 points for your portfolio images that are selected by you, and then an annotated image list, which we will require. And that's it. So only 4 things, and of course they're all equal to 100 points. And so I'll give you a little bit of information what we're really looking for when it comes to that expression of interest. So we, Public Art with Buffalo, would like you to think about what really excites you about this opportunity. Think about how you would describe yourself as an artist or a designer or a fabricator, as a creative. Describe your preferred art form or your medium, or your favorite working materials and how that would transcribe onto the project. Do you like resin, or do you like working with wood or illustration, painting, sculpture, you name it. It'd be great to offer some insight to some of the complementary skills that you might have for this project, like design software experience with AutoCAD, or other types of experience like with community development or public engagement, or if you're networked in with the community already, please include that in your expression of interest. Also, if you have an idea as to what type of materials you'd like to use, plan how you include how you would like to outsource manufacturing if you have to. If you can make it, fabricate all of it in-house, or plan to use the community groups around you to do that, please include that. Describe your experience. If you have collaborated with others as a leader, please describe that experience. And so that's some of the things that we're looking for in an expression of interest, or maybe that can guide you in developing one. Of course, we're always here for advice, so you're more than welcome to reach out to us at public.art at rmwb.ca. When it comes to your biography, we're looking for you to provide us with a story about you as an artist, what mediums you've worked with, what credentials and experience that you've had that have shaped your practice, and if applicable, please include a link to your website or social media handle that best showcases your work. And finally, it's this portfolio piece. While you can provide us with a link to your online portfolio, that doesn't really give us a good idea as to the specific images that really relate to this project. So if you can tailor your application and tailor those portfolio images to what you're trying to describe as part of this project, that would be extremely helpful. And then finally, include an annotated image list. So what that means is we're looking for a description of what we're seeing when we look at your portfolio. And that about covers it for that section. And pretty much for the entire, for the really important information and details about this project, again, you can find them online or reach out to us at publicart.ca or at rmwb.ca. I would like to now open it up for discussion. This is my favorite time, and my favorite sort of part of these artist information sessions is really hearing from you, our participants. And if you can, please turn your cameras on so we can see your beautiful faces. And so we will now be turning on the microphones. And just a quick reminder that we are still going to be recording, and so all of this will be available publicly on our website. So, opening it up for questions. Alberto, I see your hand is up. You can unmute and turn on your camera if you would like.
Well, yeah, hi, this is Alberto. I'm here with my daughter. She is 14 now. She likes arts and everything here. But she said, I want to turn the camera now, but she will. Okay, my question is, she said, okay, and 14 now, and it seems that all the information is for adults, right? How can she said, how can I get for example, the insurance that you require has to be through the old people or older people, or should be she by herself, 14 represented herself?
With the expression of interest?
Yes, exactly, yeah.
Yeah, you can absolutely apply as an individual, or you can apply as a collaborative.
But I mean, she's 14. I mean, this is still, she's a minor. Is the interest is gonna be accepted?
No, she would have to collaborate with somebody who's 18 or above.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. No, thank you. This is the only question. Yeah. Thank you.
Not a problem. Yeah, great question, Alberto. Do we have any other questions?
So I'm just curious in regards to there's 3 sites.
Yes.
Do we get to pick the sister community that we're working with, or we have to plan for a bench at Vista, bench at Anzac, and a bench at CM?
It's a really great question, Sonia. So what it is there's only 2 sites, right? So you're looking at either Anzac, or inspired by the community of Anzac, or inspired through engagement with the community of Vista Ridge or Sacred Creek.
Okay. My next question is how many benches in total are there going to be?
4.
4? Okay.
But there will be 2 artists selected. So one for the community of Anzac, and then one for the community of Sacred Creek. And so you'll have 2 artists engaging, and then with that one community, you'll make 2 benches. They don't have to be identical either. So the whole idea is that there's a connection between the 2 benches, but they don't have to be identical. They can use what I call a salient bench, so using materials that are similar or concepts that are similar that make them connected in a way, so that when we place one in that community, and then we have that sister bench in TM Park, so there's that relationship, that visual relationship between downtown core and then within our rural communities. So we're starting to build that story and that connection visually.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Nice to see you. Do we have any more questions? Any questions for the artists at all?
Yeah. I have a question for you.
Yes, you go ahead. Do you hear us?
Yes, Vera, we hear you.
Okay, I'm with Frank.
Yeah.
He has a question.
Yeah, I have 2 questions. First question is the bench that we produce, is that meant to be reproduced separately from the bench that we make? In other words, there was a mention in this material that the bench was going to be kind of like almost mass produced or used in various places once we had submitted our 2 benches. Can you elaborate on that? Do I have that right, or is that not right?
Yeah, absolutely. So what it is you'll be making a design, and if you have the ability to also fabricate it, you can do that. But we're just looking for you to first work with the community to design the bench concept and create 2 benches. One will be placed in that community, and then the other one will be placed in Fort McMurray. Does that help?
Yeah, that helps. That helps.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then for the first artist, I just want to know how she had an image of one bench that looked like a standard bench, and then she had a very beautiful kind of like etched metal background in that bench. And I'm wondering if she can elaborate on how she made that. I think it was for the railroad theme with the railroad wheels on it. I think that's the bench I'm thinking of. Maybe she's not there.
Yeah, it looks like Karen is frozen. Maybe
Okay.
we can get her back.
Yeah, we can find that out else in some other way. But that was a bench that was similar to the concept that we had in our heads too. So that I was interested in that bench.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, it's our pleasure.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Mm.
Oh, okay. I think he's talking about the Red Deer elevator row bench with the grain elevators. He's asking how were they made?
Okay, are you there? Yeah,
Yes.
I'm asking about, it was a I don't think it was that one. It was a black bench. It was a very standard looking bench, and the work you had done was just on the back of the bench.
It was representative of the train system.
Oh, the wheels. I think it's the one for the Liberty Village in Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all wheels. And I wasn't involved in the fabrication process for that. But basically, I drew it up, and it looks like they laser cut it and welded it together.
Okay, that's good. Do you know if they used a standard bench or they made the whole bench from scratch? You wouldn't know that, I guess.
I think they use a standard bench for their manufacturing. Okay. And what they do is they change the background of the back of the seats. So they get different artists to do different backgrounds for the seat back. But the seat itself is standard.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
There's a great image. There you go. Mm-hmm. And there's a great image of Artist's daughter. That's beautiful. Do we have any other questions? And I think I'd like to ensure that everybody understands sort of the concept of the first part of the application process of this is an expression of interest, sharing what your abilities or what your interest is in this project. Include what community you would like to work with to come up with these, beautiful concepts and bench designs. That will come, the actual concept of design will come following artist selection. Mm-hmm. So we'll get to sort of iron out those real complex details with the selected artists, of course. Mm-hmm. Do we have any other questions? Great question. So no, this is the pilot program for this project. So Vista, or Sapri Creek Estates, and Anzac are the first two communities that are being graced with this pilot project. The plan is to continue this project for the next 5 years, however long it takes for us to accomplish to get a bench in each rural community, and then have one placed in the core, in the urban core. So don't worry, we're going to keep going with these. Any other questions? I do personally have one for Karen that might be helpful for people who are attending this session. Karen, can you tell us a little bit more about your process on how you create a design? Because I'm assuming you don't manufacture each one. So how do you make connections with fabricators?
Connecting with fabricators, I basically just call them up and interview them.
Yeah. And
see who is the best fit. And, just by the questions you ask them, you can tell who's going to be able to do the work on your project and who has the capabilities to do so, right?
Right. I do have another question. What was the length of time that you committed to this? Like for, let's say, when considering the 3 benches that you had created that had a really great story to them, sort of with the beautiful colors, and you actually showed some process images in the corner of that slide. Are you able to give a little bit more information as the length of time that it took you to deliver those?
Yeah, it's about 9 months.
Perfect.
From start to finish.
Okay. Yes, those. That's very helpful. And then I do have a question directed towards Jamie. You talk a lot about community engagement and sort of these great methods of engagement like coffee chats and socials and these types of things. In your experience as an artist, is this something that you would pursue on your own? And did you find any sort of difficulties with connecting? Because it does seem like you're, I don't know, kind of was in the right place at the right time for some of these projects.
Well, I mean, we did go out to intentionally find someone when we went to Chinatown. So I guess the more you go on location and talk to people and try to find the people you're looking for, you will eventually find them. But usually, as an artist, just in like when I'm doing art in general, if I'm doing some of the like pop culture stuff, or if we're, doing things that engage certain communities, we do try and involve ourselves in that community, whether it's online or through social media or, meetups or events in that area, just to try and get connections with and more understanding. And it's usually stuff that we're interested in ourselves too, because the stuff we make art about is stuff that we also really like or enjoy or we're fans of. Like we do a lot of bird related art lately, and we have parrots as pets, and we're in a number of parrot groups, and we're in the Calgary parrot group. We know a lot of parrot people and people who love birds around the area. So I think that like the more you're engaged in the kind of thing that you like, and if you do, online events or you go to in-person events or whatever, what have you, you will make those connections that will build you to the point where you can do more public engagement, and have those access to resources.
Yeah, I hear that. I think it's really good. I think you mentioned sort of, or touched upon the concept of really digging into that rich history of sites and really learning and how that will influence the design. And so I think that's also really important, especially for this region. We have some really interesting stories when it comes to Anzac and when it comes to Sapri Creek Estate. So, and some really great community associations as well. So I think some of these artists would do really well connecting with them. And just a reminder to the artists who are attending, we are also here to help you. So we can help you make those connections, absolutely. We have many, as I'm sure you already do. I see a hand up, Azela.
I just wanted to ask a question that I think it may help the artist present, that I'm thinking about. For both of the artists, if you can just share, how did you depict your idea? Like what sort of software do you use, or to help the artist kind of make that connection from concept to present the idea, since maybe not everybody will be able to fabricate the bench. Thank you.
Karen, you can answer first. I think you'll have the better answer for that one.
I don't think there's any better answer. We all do things differently. But as far as concept to reality, I do my brainstorming session in my head, and I try to sort some things out in my head. And I sketch things first. And once I come up with something I like or something that will work, I draft it up. I hand draft it up. That's my background training. And then if it goes to construction stage, I do working drawings on AutoCAD. And I use a person online to help me with that part of it. I can do AutoCAD, but I just don't do it very often. So I have to get somebody who does it all the time, right? These software programs you forget quite easily if you're not at it all the time, right? So
it's true. I feel like youth, to be honest, I feel like youth in our high schools are learning that in some of their classes already. So it is interesting. We could reach out to them too.
yeah, and it's good to do a 3D sketch. You can do it on the computer. Mm-hmm. Earlier on in my earlier public art projects, they wanted models. So I usually do my models out of paper.
Yeah. Yep.
I do it to scale on paper, cut it out, and assemble it. So, and yeah, that's the easiest way to do it, for me anyway.
Jamie, do you have any comments?
For both of the bench projects that we worked on, so we actually also made did a bench for Crescent Heights in Calgary. We helped with the fabrication, so they were, usually they were on a smaller budget, so they were made out of wood, and we were painting them. But working with another project that I'm working on with a sculpture, we have a fabricator for that project, and they have someone who can do the design work, who works at the fabrication place. So you might find a fabricator that can also help you do the design work and do all the sketches and everything that Karen was talking about. But for most of our projects, we end up doing the application of the paint and the design on it. And they were not, they didn't have the budget to really make a lot of unique benches. So we kind of were a little bit limited in that way.
Thank you.
For a couple of my benches, I actually, that would be the Untitled Blooms and the one in Red Deer. The Red Deer elevator row bench. I painted those myself because of budgetary constraints too, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Smart. It's these creative ways that artists seem to, be able to figure these things out. I do see another hand up. Sonia, did you, Son?
Hi. I was just trying to figure out the difference between, like, we have to do the expression of interest, right? So is that just our concept because there's a community engagement part? Or do we have to have that community engagement part in that expression of interest and how we're going to engage the community?
Yeah, great question. So the community engagement part will happen after. So what we're looking for right now is what interests you. So it's the expression of interest. So what interests you about this project? What skills that you could bring to the table? If you already have a connection to these communities, please include that in your expression of interest. Members of the community will be on the selection panel. And so they'll filter through these applications and it's really, the members of those communities will be selecting which artists they'd like to work with. So it's really your opportunity to kind of sell yourself.
Okay, so we don't actually have to have our concept of what we think. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
No drawn concept or anything. Yeah, right. That'll happen after you're selected. Then we'll get you really involved and it'll be dictated by your engagement with that community. So you guys are really building something together. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I just wanted that clarification. Thank you.
No problem. Thanks for asking. Mm-hmm. Do we have anything else today? No? Do we have anything, any other sort of interesting experiences or comments from our artists here, words of wisdom, perhaps, from these experiences? You know, just go forth. Excellent.
Yeah.
Well,
Just do it.
I have one. I would say definitely take the time when picking the community that you want to pitch for. Take the time to research into that community, read some stories about the community, get familiar with it so that you have an understanding of what you might end up developing and be able to form a connection with that beforehand. I think that that's an important thing to do with any application that you do for any art piece anywhere, but definitely do that for this.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is sort of that key component. Thanks for that great advice. So with that, then I would like to thank everybody for joining us this evening. I'd like to encourage you to sign on to participate.rmwb.ca to find the Artist Information Sessions project page. There you can sign up for future sessions and stay in touch. There's also a great tool on the project page if you have any questions. Ask your questions there and our team will respond to you quickly. And if we don't have the answer, we'll get it for you. There's also FAQs there if your question isn't already answered. Lastly, I'd like to thank our special guest speakers this evening. You have been phenomenal in your delivery and your projects are extremely inspiring, and I hope that they've inspired all of you. They have also offered to share their email addresses, so you can certainly reach out to them, and that is a generous offer as well. So feel free to reach out to them as well if you have any questions about their projects. So finally, this would conclude our time together. So thank you again for spending the evening with Public Art Wood Buffalo and with Rory and Foley or Jamie and with Karen as well. So thank you and have a wonderful evening.
Quick question before we take off. Where do we get the email addresses from?
Yeah, we should be sharing those in the comment section.
Yeah, we'll have them in the comment section for sure.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. I'm not familiar with Teams. Where do you find the chat?
I hear you. Would you like us to email them to you? We can also do that.
That would be wonderful. Thank you.
Our pleasure. Yeah. Okay. All right, we can send that out. So with that, this concludes the evening. Feel free to log off or ask more questions. We still have until 8. Okay, take care.